Thank you so much. And till now, we all are living and we all are alive. Yes, we breathe, we eat, we go to work, and we follow our daily routine. And we are just repeating the same thing every day. We are living only for survival. And this has been our part of daily routine. But are we really here for the survival? An animal is also living. Eat food, shelter, and mate. The way of animal is to search for food and satisfy the hunger, to produce children, and to take care of the family. If animals and human beings are living a similar life, then what is the difference between both of them? Existence must have given something to human being, something extraordinary, which separates us from animal kingdom. What is that which separates us? This question is very important for us. Till now, we have never asked this question. We raised many relevant questions with ourselves about our past miseries, about our mistakes, or future affairs. But these are all absurd questions, which has no meaning to it. A real question comes with the awareness. And for that, you have to give time to yourself. Till now, we have never listened to ourselves, rather talked a lot about knowing whether this shall help or degrade our state. So what is life? Are we misunderstanding survival with life? Or are we living in the society where nobody is aware what is the true way of living? Something we are missing. That's why there is no fulfillment within. There is a quest. The following words are written on the tomb of an Anglican bishop in the crypts of Westminster Abbey. So the words are, when I was young and free, and my imagination had no limits, I dreamed of changing the world. As I grew older and wiser, I discovered the world would not change. So I shortened my sights somewhat and decided to change only my country. But it too seemed immovable. As I grew into my twilight years, in one last desperate attempt, I settled for changing only my family, those closest to me. But alas, they would have none of it. And now, as I lay on my deathbed, I suddenly realized if I had only changed myself first, then by example, I would have changed my family. From their inspiration and encouragement, I would then have been able to better my country. And who knows, I may have even changed the world. So, when someone asks the question, what is life? The answer is a blurred image around your phone. It's called life. We tend to miss the very life because we are so engrossed in our worldly affairs. We are so full of everything and carrying so much baggage on our shoulders, which doesn't allow us to feel how it is to be free and empty. There is a beautiful story of Zain master Ryutan and his disciple Tokusan. Every master has their own way, and so has Ryutan, the Zain master. So once it happened, Zen master Ryutan was sitting silently And suddenly his disciple Tokusan came to his cave. Ryutan went to serving tea to his disciple Tokusan and kept pouring. Tokusan watched the overflow until he could restrain himself no longer. Stop. The cup is overfull. No more will go in. Ryutan, the master, said, like this cup, you are so full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zain? Unless you first empty your cup. And this is life. We all are living like this. We all are so full with our worries, with our opinions, with our speculations, that we don't even know. So there's a beautiful story of Ramana Maharishi, who was a very famous sage. Ramana Maharishi's story says when he was meditating on Arunachalam, and two thieves came and thought, this man has seen them, and now they both would be in trouble. One of the thieves went uphill and started staring at Ramana, and few minutes later went down the hill and told his friend that I found this man blind. He didn't see us. But that was not the reality. Ramana was simply sitting, no movement, only stillness. Being still, witnessing everything. This is called Therav. Nowhere to go, simply arrived. And this is the very nature of those who are Buddhas. Buddha talked about Samyak Drishti. In Dhammapada it is mentioned Samasti, which says mindfulness. And the moment you become Samasati, mindful, your whole life changes. So Ramakrishna Paraman says, when you reach a state where you can empty your mind of all thoughts, you don't need any outer supply. Nature itself supplies you with ideas unceasingly. Ramakrishna also used to say the same thing. He used to tell a story in a store of grain. As you pull the heap of grain forward, the grain that is lying in the back automatically comes forward into your reach. It is similar. One never feels the paucity of ideas if one could connect to the universal storehouse of ideation. I will tell you one anecdote Ramakrishna loved to tell. He used to say, so once it happened that there was a great festival near a sea on the beach. Thousands of people were gathered there, and suddenly they all became engrossed in a question. Whether the sea is immeasurable or measurable. Whether there is bottom to it or not. Fathomable or unfathomable. By chance, one man completely made of salt was also there. He said, you wait and you discuss, and I will go into the ocean and find out. Because how can one know unless one goes into it? So the man of salt jumped into the ocean. Hours passed, days passed, then months passed. And people started to go to their homes. They had waited long enough. And the man of salt was not coming back. The man of salt. The moment he entered the ocean, started melting. And by the time he reached the bottom, he was not. He came to know, but he couldn't come back. And those who didn't know, they discussed it for a long time. They may have arrived at some conclusions, because the mind loves to reach conclusions. Once a conclusion is reached, mind feels at ease. And so many philosophies exist. All philosophies exist to fulfill a need. The mind asks, and the mind cannot remain with the question. It is uneasy. To remain with the question feels inconvenient. An answer is needed. Even if it is false, it will do. Mind is put at rest. To go on and take a jump into the seas are dangerous. And remember, Ramakrishna is true. We are all men of salt as far as the ocean is concerned. The ocean of life and death. We are men of salt. We will melt into it because we come out of it. We are made by it, of it. We will melt. So mind is always afraid of going into the ocean. It is made of salt. It is bound to dissolve. It is afraid. So it remains on the bank, discussing things, debating, arguing, creating theories, all false. Because they are based on fear. A courageous man will take the jump and he will resist accepting any answer which is not known by himself. Our mind is surrounded by thought every moment. There is something constantly happening. It is not at ease. A one who is in deep surrender towards existence becomes godly. The moment you drop everything, rest will be taken care of by the existence itself. You need not to follow any rituals to please God. Just gratitude is enough to be in the godliness. There is one Urdu sher which says, "Na namaz aati hai mujhko, na wazu aata hai. Sajda kar leta hu jab samne tu aata hai." Life is a mystery. And those who have tried to understand this through their intellect have missed the opportunity to know the truth. It is to be lived just as it is. For this great understanding is needed. That I say, wisdom, which comes within. Nowhere to go. Just change the direction from outer to inner. It is out of muddy water, lotus emerges and blooms. Similarly, the outer world is like that muddy environment, which is not a negative situation if we see clearly. There lies a very hidden possibility for our inner flowering. Live the maximum, not the minimum. Don't compromise with minimum when the whole is available. And the day will come when your presence will radiate a perfume and reach to the masses, which showers them with fullness. All the Upanishads, all the philosophies has said only one thing. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. I am not the mind, nor intellect, nor ego, nor the reflections of inner self. I am not the five senses. I am beyond that. I am not the ether, nor the earth, nor the fire, nor the wind. I am indeed that eternal knowing and bliss, love and pure consciousness. Sat Chit Anand. Existence, consciousness, bliss. And that is why those who have tasted the nectar of the divine beauty have said in the glory of Supreme, Satchidananda Rupaya Vishvatutyadi Hitave. The one who is bliss, love and pure consciousness, who is the creator and the destroyer. So with this, we will do some reflection. So for a minute, very gently, you may all please close your eyes. And let us sit for a moment and just be. And let us ask one question to ourselves. What is my real identity? Without job, without name, apart from all the identities which society has given, the one which belongs to you, which is eternal, the real you. Just be with this. Just go a little deeper. And see what comes. Be there and just witness. Do nothing. Be calm and gentle with yourself. Just be there. And rest. Bring a gentle smile on your face. And gently, you may open your eyes now. We are done for today, and if there are any questions, then we can have Q&A.
Sure. First of all, thank you very much, Shivanji. I think it was always it was a pleasure talking to you even 2 weeks back, and thank you so much for your words of wisdom. So I'll open it up. Vinita, would you like to start? Any comments, any thoughts? Vinita is based in Kolkata, Shivanji.
I would love to. I would like to thank you for the lovely talk. It was really nice, and what a lovely way to start a weekend. Thank you, Ganesh, for organizing this.
Thank you so much, Vinita.
Yeah, no, I really loved your talk, especially when you started about with the Ramana Maharishi's experience. And I've been incidentally reading a book on Ramana Maharshi, and I find it so inspirational. And like you say that he says there's nowhere to go, but still I've arrived. So, even in our spiritual studies, when we start, what we say is that spirituality is not a journey in space or time. It is just a journey from ignorance to knowledge. So without having physically traveled, you just arrive. And of course, the mindfulness you spoke about in Buddhism and empty your mind, that is exactly what the Vedanta, the Upanishads, they tell us, that it is all about mind, controlling your mind. Because once you, instead of looking outward for your answers, if you look inwards and you start looking for, and that's exactly where it is, because then you realize that what we are as you mentioned about Sat Chit Anand, that you are eternal consciousness, existence, consciousness, and bliss. So when you know that you are eternal and you are consciousness, you can't be anything but happy. So that's what you are. And then immediately you come to the realization that Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. And the minute you realize the falsity of the world outside, there can be nothing but happiness, because you know that there is a permanence inside you which cannot be destroyed. Because all the reason for our sorrow is the impermanence, the change. None of us want to, change anything that is there. None of us want to go away. But once you realize that you're always there, then you can't be anything but happy. And of course, that's exactly what they say, sajatiya vritti pravaha, which means one type of thought, which is the thought of the Paramatma. And you just get rid of the vijatiya vritti pravaha, which is the different types of thoughts. And then, of course, what you said about mind loves to reach a conclusion. So the logical conclusion is again Satchidananda and Shivoham, Chidananda Rupam, Shivoham. And of course, deep surrender to God, and what you spoke about, the destroy. It actually what it does, it destroys all the fear within us, the fear of the world, because it's always in a state of flux. And thank you so much for ending this session with such a beautiful meditation, because in the Upanishads, it's all about Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. So having heard you, and then we need to mull over it. And then once you close your mind and you try to just meditate over it, that is when that knowledge becomes your own, and it becomes Paravidya instead of Aparavidya. Aparavidya is external knowledge that you hear, but Paravidya is something that you feel within you. So what you have succeeded in ending your session by making us meditate is that we've actually internalized whatever you have said about Satchidanand. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vinita. Beautifully, beautifully articulated. And I absolutely love the story of Man of Salt. Because I think this is, unless and until you totally dissolve yourself, when the I is lost, that's when you become in the knowing. So that's the journey from doing to being. So yeah, any more questions?
Any other thoughts? Manjari, Naren.
Stephen. Manjari, go ahead.
Naren, you go first. I'll go after you.
Okay. Shivamji, thank you so much for taking time out for all of us. Two things which made a deep impact on me today, and one question that I have for you. Two things which made a deep impact on me is how Mridula introduced you and said, how will one make progress in spirituality if the base of choices is fear? I think it was very, very deep. And when you said that the mind likes to reach a conclusion, and in reaching a conclusion, it feels its value. And even if the conclusion is wrong, it's okay. There is a longing for us to come to some kind of a conclusion. I think on this, I'll have to think more and deep. The question that I have for you is, and if you think it's something worth answering, please go ahead. Otherwise, you can simply ignore it. We have heard about Satchidanand. And in the scriptures, we speak about Satchidanand is the way to live life. The question that comes to me is, what is the role of love? So would it be something like Prem Satchidanand? Or if it is Satchidanand, and like Vinita says, Jagat is Mithya. So when we speak about love, is it our relationship with the Jagat, where that entire relationship of love comes in? Or does love actually have some importance in the path of spirituality? Up to you, Shivamji.
Yes. So thank you so much for asking the wonderful question. And definitely it is worth answering. And your question is very valid. Love is the base and foundation of all the religions. Or rather, I would put, love should be the base and foundation of all religions. And the real religion emerges out of love. And if there is no love, there is no Satchidanand. If a man is full of anger, if a man is full of ego, which we say the masculine energy at its peak, where there is no love, there can be so much knowledge. There can be so much which a person has accumulated. But if that is not out of love, then it is totally a waste. And if a person has complete love, deep love, inside out, then whether the person is not aware of anything, has finally reached. You see a villager, they are not so much educated. In the terms of education, they are illiterate. But what they have is missing in the urban culture. They have love. They know how to respect. They know how to show the affection. And that is not false. That is something which comes within. And that is the real religion. That is the true religion. And if a person can understand this deep theory of love, it is very easy to understand what Satchidanand is. Because Satchidanand is not what we listen, what we hear. Satchidanand is what we experience. It is an outcome. Once we reach to a certain level of purity, of love and joyfulness, then the flower blooms, which is known as Satchidanand.
That was truly brilliant, Shivamji. Really amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Manjari?
Two things, Shivamji. First thing, Mridula, excellent introduction. Ganesh, thanks for organizing this. Shivamji, two things which you said. The first was about the quote, the difference between animals and us, what really differentiates us. So I would say, adding to what you just said about love, it's the empathy, right? The ability to empathize with not just people like us, but people who are different from us, or even beings who are different from us. And the second thing, very interesting, what you said about the quotation, how we grow up saying that I want to change the world, and then we can't change the world. And so I want to ask you a question on that front, is that I started my journey as a child, like most of us, saying I can change everything, and then we can't change anything, like what you said. And then you come back to saying, actually, there are bits of the world you can change. And because you have reached a stage where you have decided to change yourself, and that's the only thing you can change. But then you reach a stage where you say, okay, there are bits of the world you cannot change, but there are some bits of the world you can change. So is that right? Or is there anything you would like to tell us more about on change for the world?
So there is a Zain saying which says, I was a fool when I tried to change the world, and I became wise when I realized that I have to change myself. The moment we understand there is no need to change anybody, you just have to change the lenses from which you are seeing, which says, Yatha Drishti Tatha Drishti. If you have to change the Srishti, you have to change your Drishti. If you wish to change the world, you have to change the perspective, the lens from which you are seeing. And the moment you change yourself, you see everything is different. It is like walking on the road, and you see there are so many obstacles on the road. The road is not appropriate. Whom will you blame? The road or yourself? You just have to take the U-turn and go to the different direction. Because road is what it is. That you cannot change. Maybe someone can do that. But now, here, no, you cannot. But yes, you have an option to change the direction. And the moment you change the direction, you see the beauty is here and now. But we are so engrossed and focusing on only where there is a negativity, where there is a obstacle, where there is a hurdle. From that limited belief, self-limiting belief, to abundant mindset. Once we understand this concept of life, then we don't need to change the world. The outcome will be a beautiful world. Because at that time, everybody is thinking about that. Everyone is thinking that I have to change myself. And what is society? We are the society. When we talk about masses, that I want to change everybody, that is a wrong mindset. And the moment we say, let's create an inner revolution and change ourselves, that has the possibility. There is a possibility lies to change the environment, to change the earth, and just be what we are, the true state, the real state, which we say Satchidanand.
Uchi, you had a question?
Yes, hi. Thank you, Ganesh. Sorry, I'm not able to put my video on. Thank you very much for this beautiful session. And my question really is related to, one of these things that has come up twice today, that how fears come in the way of spirituality and spiritual evolution. So I wanted to ask that what would be the, guidance on a day-to-day basis to be able to go from, the space of fear to the space of inner power, the space of values. What would be your suggestion to not get agitated and to be otherwise, on a practical basis?
From the very childhood, we have been conditioned that do this, otherwise this would happen. Do this, otherwise this would happen. So our upbringing is full of fear. With so much conditioning, we have reached to a state that in our day-to-day life, we are full of fear. What to do with it? What can be done? If you go deeper, you will find that you are not the fear. The fear is within you. Just a little awareness is needed. You need to zoom in and see what is it something which is creating disturbance in you? What is it which is creating so much fear in you? Because till now, we have not tried to know the fear. We only wish to come to the conclusion and wish to end immediately. Without living it, without accepting it, we are constantly fighting. And this fight, you can never win. Because you are fighting with the unknown, which is not physically present. It is easy to fight someone who is physically present in front of you. And maybe you can win. There is a possibility to win. But to fight with the unknown is very difficult. How can you do that? Because unknown is not visible. Unknown is not present. Yet it exists. And something which exists, you have to deal with it. Now the question comes, how to deal with it? Awareness is the only way to deal with it. The moment you become aware and accept the totality of that field, the moment you start living without neglecting it, without living it half, accepting it fully, you will realize that you are in the present moment. And in the present moment, you will experience that there is only you. Because fear exists when you are in the past or in the future. And when you are in the here and now, you are out of that psychological time zone. So fear is equals to time. And when you are out of that time, you're out of the fear. You exist. That's why fear exists. When you are totally here and now, watching it rather than fighting with it, you will experience that there is nothing. There is absolutely purity and joy within. And always remember, fragmentation of thought creates fear. Because you are so divided, your divided self is so fearful that it does not want to experience the totality. And to experience the totality of the moment, you have to be in the here and now. That is the inward flowering.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I can see Stephen.
Stephen,
yes, and then
Loganathan.
So Steve, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, and what a wonderful session. And thank you, Sri Shivam, for your presentation today. And it's interesting that we have between us today been speaking about that wonderful word, love. And I've been privileged to have some communication with Ganesh about this topic because he described love as the key to his own success as a leader in the business environment. But I wanted to ask you, if I may, Sri, is I'm speaking later today to a group of high school students. They're about to go on next year to university. And I speak as a communicator. I can give them some tips. That's easy. But actually, how can you connect with their heart? How can you connect them with a concept like love, particularly when they're growing up in societies and cultures which are increasingly materialistic and where, phenomena such as, we call it, you might have it in India as well, FOMO, F-O-M-O, fear of missing out. How do you connect your wonderful message to those young people?
So there is a peer pressure, which we all see nowadays, which says, I have done this. What are you waiting for? And this message is circulating in each and every vein of teenagers. And there is a term which we use, FOMO, fear of missing out. But is this term really exist or not is the question. We have never inquired that what is FOMO. Rather, we have accepted the reality that FOMO exists. So there is a so-called culture, a certain sets of group of people which says that I'm feeling FOMO. But does it really exist? 50 years back, 100 years back, 200 years back? No. Then what is it something which millennials are talking about? Is FOMO really exist? Or is it the creation of our own mind, which is an outcome of fear? Whether you name fear of missing out, whether you name ABC, whether you name XYZ to any fear. But fear is fear. There is no dividation. There is no fragmentation in fear. Fear is simply fear. It is like love is simply love. People say that there is a conditional love. People say there is love between husband and wife, love between father and son. But if you see the root, love is simply love. The moment we give term to anything, it simply says we don't wish to go into that. And we simply wish to accept the fact that yes, I'm experiencing fear. I'm experiencing FOMO. But that's not the reality. The reality is, because our mind never wished to accept the reality, the totality of fear. That's why there is a fragmentation. That's why there is a dividation, which says, I want to give name to this fear. This fear is FOMO. This fear is this. This fear is this. But that's not right. The moment you come out of fear, the moment you experience the totality of that fear and understand it with your intelligence, you're out of fear. Whether it is FOMO, whether it is SHOMO, whether it whatsoever it is, whatever name you give it. But love is the absence of fear.
Great way of putting it. Thank you. I think we are entering the last 5 minutes. So, Lokanathan, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you. And Shivamji, thank you for a very nice session, and it was really thought-provoking. And some of the points that really resonated with me were that as people, as human beings, how do we use our mind, which is given to us, and how do we make the most of it to understand the purpose of life? The second part that you talked about, the mind loves to reach a conclusion. I think that's really so true. I mean, we are always looking for an answer to our questions, and unless the questions are answered, we are kind of restless. We are kind of just waiting to find that answer. And that's where my question is that, there is this belief that unless you're desperate to understand the truth, you will probably never get it. I mean, a person, for example, a person who is drowning and he's just desperately to fight for life. I mean, that's the kind of state in which a person has to be able to realize truth. And what are your thoughts on that?
The real quest comes within. And if you are not desperate, if you're not willing to understand what the life is, then it is not possible to know the truth. Because through intellect, you cannot reach to a stage which is impossible. Possibility lies when you understand that there is something which is beyond our intellect. And because man is full of ego, he always uses his mind. And through mind, you can never reach to a point which we say Satchidanand, or we say the bliss quotient. Knowingness comes within. And the real intelligence says, when you are totally in harmony with yourself, when you are totally aligned with yourself, then you are simply arrived home. So you are already home. To understand this, a great understanding is needed.
Thank you.
Can I just put across a short, adding to that? So you've explained it so beautifully. So that's exactly what Advaita philosophy or non-dualism, it says that the minute we realize that there is no non-dualism and we are all one and the same, we are the same, Aham Brahmasmi. Our Atman is the same as the Brahman, and it is all pervading, and we are Satchidanand. the minute that comes, the fear goes away, because the fear only comes out of duality. When you mistake a rope for a snake, once you realize that no, it's a snake, then there's no, that it's a rope, then there's no fear. So similarly, once you realize that you yourself are, your Atman is one with the Brahman, there is no fear. And secondly, how can there be anything but love when you see everything as an extension of yourself? Is it possible for you to hate your hands or your legs just because they are deformed, or they are not serving the purpose? So similarly, if you realize that the whole universe is just an extension of yourself, then there can't be anything but love. So I mean, this is just my take on
very nice. Very nice.
Just continuing on what you
That's true. Thank you, Vinay.
Ganesh, you're on mute.
I was just saying, does anybody else have any urgent question? Madhurija, any thoughts?
There's actually one comment by Deepak.
Yeah, Deepak Gupta, no? Yeah,
on
please.
chat. I will just read it out.
Yeah.
So a thought for exploration. Why does it have to be a movement from one state to another? Why can't it be about multiple states coexisting at any given point of time? Why can't it be a meta state where I constantly move between the different states of mind and existence? Yes. Quite a few questions rolled into one. Anything you would like to say, Guruji?
So, when we give thought for exploration, why does it have to be a movement from one state to another? Why can't it be about multiple states? Actually, we don't need to travel from this state to that state. Again, traveling to a state. Who is traveler? Who is a traveler? Who is traveling? The one who is traveling has not seen the traveler. That's why there is a distinct between traveler and the traveling. And the moment the traveler is lost, only traveling exists, then in that traveling, you will find you are the one who is a traveler. It simply says nowhere to go. The only state which exists is here and now. Because in reality, there is nothing. There is no past, there is no future. It is all created by our psychological mind. If you go out of this earth, you will find different time zones. On Jupiter, there is different time zone. On Moon, there is different time zone. But what is it which is beyond all the time zones? What is it which is beyond everything, beyond all the planets, which is universal? That is your true state, the original state, a clean slate. Because we have not experienced the clean slate, we say, this is my state and this is where I have to go. This is the distinction which our mind has created. But in reality, there is no distinction. Aham nirvikalpam nirakara rupo. Which says, there is no akar, there is no form of mind. We all are having human body experience while being spiritual, which Teilhard, a French philosopher, has said. We all are having human experience while being spiritual. But if you talk to someone and say, are you spiritual or not? The reply would be either yes or no, without knowing, without understanding. They say, no, I'm not spiritual. They have certain dharana. They have certain belief system. And the one who is saying, yes, I'm spiritual, that is also out of the false identity which one has not yet experienced. But something we are missing which we are not fear of missing out. So things materially, which we have not experienced, we have fear of missing out. But the possibility which we all have, we are not fearful. We are constantly missing it to experience the ultimate. So even if you have to experience the fear, even if you have to do fear, be fearful for the good, then it would be a good fear to have.
That's a very good one, sir. So I'll just close this and just echoing what Garima just posted, saying that thank you very much, Shivandi, for just answering such difficult concepts with such simplicity. And I think that is really what made this session really stand out. So thank you very much for spending an hour of your time. And if any of you folks want to get in touch with Guruji, I think just talk to Mridula. I'm sure she can connect you. And thank you very much, Mridula, for giving us the idea of this session and also coordinating it so well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pranam.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Vinita,
Thank you.
Narendra,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Manjari, Ruchi, and all the other participants, and especially to you, Ganesh. And yes, Stephen, for your wonderful formal question. Great. Thank you so much, Ganesh, for organizing.
Thank you. No, thank you, Shivandi. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to all of you for listening me with love, affection, I thank you and I pray to the divine in you. Thank you so much.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank you so much.